So that's what I've been doing for the past few years, up until the past couple months, where I got promoted into this role of education coordinator. And
Yeah.
you'll be most successful in the area that you are very interested in. I'm very excited about this, and the passion shows. And I go home very excited at the end of the day. I have lots of ideas all the time.
That's my friend Melody. We went to school together, and 5 years later, I wanted to catch up with her to see where she was as a clinical laboratory scientist. I went ahead and asked her a few questions. Which departments you've been working in and for how long? What was your favorite part of Flow? What made you move towards the education department coordinator position? Are there any schools out there that you would suggest or recommend to people who want to take this route? I learned so much in our conversation, and I hope you learned something new as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Melody, it's so good to see you again. It's been so long. How long has it been?
Oh goodness, Alicia, it's been a couple years. I mean, we're always like in touch, because of Instagram, thankfully.
Yeah. I'd like to know which departments you've been working in and for how long.
I graduated from Andrews. I did rotations at a few different hospitals, but the hospital that I ended up staying at the most was Johns Hopkins. And I had an idea when I was graduating that I thought I was going to love blood bank or micro, and I kept on thinking like that's where I'm going to work. But over here in the hematology rotation, they also have a flow cytometry lab, and I saw it for 2 days. And I was completely sold. It changed my mind about everything. Because our flow cytometry exposure in class is very small. It's more of a lecture with a video. It didn't look very exciting, but when I saw it here, I realized, wow, there's so much more to learn. They can train me from scratch, and this is like a smaller department, very specialized, but something that I will have to actively keep learning, keep using my decision critical skills like all the time. So the test code for flow cytometry here, it just says bone marrow flow cytometry. So it's up to us to look into the patient history and decide what kind of markers we're trying to test the patient for. And at the moment we had 10 color. So for every cell, you can identify 10 different markers on it. And then you use all that collective material with the core lab results and everything else to be able to diagnose the patient's leukemia, lymphoma, monitor their stem cell transplants. We also do like T cell phenotyping for people with HIV and such. It was really exciting. So I was there for 4 years, and then another opportunity came up to keep doing flow cytometry at another nearby location. So I did that. During the years at Hopkins, though, we're a teaching and training hospital, so we have students, residents all the time in the hospital wide, and we're really just built up to take in as much trainers as we can. My mom's a teacher, and I think I definitely inherited the teacher's heart. I didn't realize that until kind of like the end of senior year. And as I kept on working the bench, and I was like, the best part of my day and the thing that I look forward to the most is, oh, is a student coming? Yes, that means that I'll get a fellow human next to me and I'll get to show them the ropes and then see if they can get excited about flow cytometry too, which it's always super rewarding when they're just like, I love flow, can I work here? And I'm like, yes, you absolutely can. There's always a spot. So that's what I've been doing for the past few years, up until the past couple months, where I got promoted into this role of education coordinator. So emphasis on the coordinating. I help arrange all the students and residents that come into Core Lab and make sure that they have a good experience here, entry, exit.
Yeah, I think one of the best things as a person is to teach other people. It feels so rewarding, because not only are you teaching a person that's stepping into working area from being a student, now working in actual clinical and kind of practicing, but you're also showing them exactly what they've been watching or looking at in class. And it feels so good when you share all this information. I love when students come in and start rotating. I start talking to them, ask them, hey, what school are you coming from? What's your favorite subjects? How are you studying for the boards? And just kind of start a conversation like that. And it feels really good. And then I also give them a little hint about, CLS traveling. But yeah, I totally understand about the teaching mode. That's basically how I studied in school. I was like teaching other people, like, hey, can you just sit down for 5 minutes? Let me teach you something. Even though they were
I remember we studied together.
Yeah, we would do the micro.
Micro and chemistry. I'd be like, I have no idea what this thing is. You're like, okay, let me give you a shot. So we'd go on the chalkboard and draw the whole thing out and be like, suddenly everything came together. We are an introvert dominated field, so not everyone enjoys training, um, which is why those of us that do love teaching and training and a little bit more extroverted, um, that's definitely a place that we need to step up into, this just show up and be like, hey, yes, I'm open to training. Yes, it is definitely a load because on top of your regular bench tasks, you're slowing down to explain and try to see if they can also participate in any kind of form. But it's so important, so needed, because if a student or a new hire doesn't have a good experience with their trainer, um, they might not want to stay there very long. They're like, okay, this is not a safe environment for me to grow and practice and train. I'm going to try somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that is definitely something I felt really passionate about. I'm like, every person that comes here, especially in flow cytometry, they're starting from scratch. So we even have some hires that haven't had an MLS background. So I'd be like, here's a hemocytometer, here's a cell, this is what's going to look like, and go from there.
Right.
And make sure that they can, and then, just a little bit of that can really just help them blossom and grow. That's the best part to see.
Right. What was your favorite part of Flow? I did read a article, 70% of what the clinical lab gives out as results to physicians, they use to diagnose their patients. So what was your favorite part of being in that flow cytometry department?
Pretty much all of it. So my favorite part was the amount of interaction we have with the patients. The name does get familiar to us because they're here, they get diagnosed, and then they get treated, and we get to monitor them over time. So you do feel a little bit of a personal connection, even though you might never see them or meet them, but you're like, okay, this person's here. And you're
So
always like
impactful.
checking what.
It impacts you.
Yeah, it's definitely a personal impact.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, pre-B-ALL is, that pre-B cell, like
Right.
lymphoblastic leukemia is very often in like infants, very young children. So you read that and then but they also have a very good remission rates. So after treatments, you can see that their levels go down and most of them recover for lifetime. They'll always have to be monitored for the rest of their lives, but you get to kind of watch their journey over the next bits. You're right there with them, even though they might never like know that you're there.
Right.
We're there. But procedure-wise, my favorite part was how manual it is. We're 10 color, which means that we're pipetting each and every little antibody in there, and they range from like 2 microliters, so very small, to like 100.
Right.
And then afterwards, the best part was analyzing. So we have a software that is very similar to like Microsoft Paint. I think that's the background to it. And you kind of just get to like circle little plots of cells, and then you get to color them different colors and categorize them. It was that part was very satisfying.
Yeah.
And just going through every single dot, and you zoom in and out and be like, okay, is that real, not real? What category does it belong to? And sometimes you would turn to the tech next to you and be like, I don't know, do you think it's this or that? So very much an involved lab area.
Right. And I resonate with you when it comes to feeling that you're impacting the patient in a positive way, helping the doctors get these results so then that way they can get treated and diagnosed. Because I used to work in the Department of Molecular Diagnostics. And
That's
in
awesome.
in that department, you do the same thing. You do use small amount of sample, 1 microliter of sample. But the impactful thing is that you're receiving these samples and you're trying to figure out their DNA typing by using RNA and DNA filtering to figure out what type of cancer they have. And once you send those results out to the pathologist and he reviews it and it's finally a final document, then it's like you feel like you were part of that diagnosis and part of that clinical aspect of the patient.
It really is gratifying.
You're pretty much helping the patient get diagnosed and then obviously get treated for that. So I definitely understand the impact.
Yeah, I'm a little bit envious of your experience. I know that flow cytometry is used in connection with cytogenetics and molecular to get that final diagnosis. And I have endless stories, since it's much of a smaller lab, the oncologist would come and talk with us personally and give us a little background.
Right.
Classic, this is, middle-aged mother coming in with a fever and fatigue. We need to check her out. And then you would go from there. and then they would be like, okay, it looks like this. We need to add on molecular to confirm, because it really is a big picture.
Right.
Like you might see something, a blast on a microscope, but then you're like, okay, it looks like this, but is it really? So then
Right.
you use flow and molecular to confirm, and then they can really put that whole picture together to get the perfect treatment plan for the patient, or at least the most ideal that's out there. And you'd be surprised, we get so many strange cases, and not every, like heard the saying before, not every cell reads the textbook, so we have some very undifferentiated cells that are so from very early on the little hematopoietic chart of differentiation, and they're so far up, they haven't even decided what if they're going to be like a lymphocyte or a myeloid family,
Right.
and that makes it even trickier, but we have to confirm and confirm and confirm. And we're looking at markers not just only on the outside of the cell, but also in their cytoplasm, and sometimes even a nuclear.
Yeah, it is. It really
You
is.
can get nerdy about all this.
Can and I love talking to the doctor, my boss, and the pathologist, and I just hey, can I see the slide? I wanted to see this the H&E slide.
Yeah, that's
Just
one
get
thing.
myself familiar with how it looks. Because if I work in hematology in the future, I'm not gonna say exactly what it is, but I'd like to get my eyes familiar with the morphology of the cell.
Yeah, it's really funny because we all use each other's information, right? In flow cytometry, if we're not exactly sure what a cluster of cell is, we might refer to the patient's CBC diff to be like, okay, on the microscope, they look like monocytes, so we're going to just categorize them as that. But
Right.
also, sometimes they hold off on their CBC diff looking at our results,
Right.
and they want to say, like, what did Flow say it was? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so we need each other. It's all one big puzzle.
Right. So going from the clinical aspect to going back to what you said, you love to teach. What made you move towards the education department coordinator position?
Yeah, I guess even towards senior year and early on when I started working as a lab tech, I realized teaching and training is my favorite part. And so I had a very good experience with my rotations here. They're very well organized, and that's in large part due to there's a full-time position in every lab, micro, blood bank, and core lab, to be able to make sure that every student knows where they're going, what they're doing, making the schedule, that they're getting evaluated. Some areas, the education coordinator actually trains the students. My role is a little bit different, where I basically just facilitate, emphasis on the coordination. And I work with the bench trainers to be like, hey, the student needs to see this and this today. And then they give me feedback. I work with the schools. It's more because of the bulk load of people that we have. The education coordinator, when I was a student, was getting close to retirement, and she took me under her wing. I told her, I love teaching and training. I'm really interested in what you do because it seems like a very unique position, and it's something that I might be interested in the future.
So when you were a student as a senior and rotating in your clinicals, if I'm not mistaken, you took the advantage to kind of get yourself out there, talk to people. And when you saw this position, you're like, hey, I really like this position. Let me talk to this person who's involved and ask them some questions to get more information and see if this really fits.
Yeah, because I had no idea this position existed really. And in other places that I rotated, it was up to just any lab tech that was, a point person. So
Right.
they would facilitate with the manager or supervisor. But we get so many here, like every single week,
Right.
honestly. I was really interested in learning about that because my end goal is to retire as a grumpy lab professor.
A grumpy
Um,
lab professor?
yes, yes. So my goal is to end up at a university or college. So the education coordinator before me took me under her wing, and she invited me to the CLEC conference within my first or second year of working. That's when I learned a lot. It was a clinical laboratory educators conference, and I went there, and I was like, fascinating. I absolutely love this. It's a whole conference on like educating and how to give better training and curriculum and all that. So I kept that in mind. Once again, at the conference, this is where I heard this tidbit of information. So I kind of like confirmed my calling. But they were giving a statistic of a survey in 2017 that in the next 5 years, about 40% of program directors are planning to retire, as
Hmm.
are a third of faculty. And they
Wow.
were like, so, almost half of the people in this room plan on retiring soon. And I look around the room and, everyone's like nodding their heads. They're like, yeah, I'm getting close to retire. So I was like, okay, so there's definitely a lot of room in lab world looking for educational people. And even in my own flow cytometry lab, not everyone would be thrilled about training. And so I was like, okay, I get to practice. This is my time to practice training. I learned a lot, for like the first few people I trained. I was like, oh, I should have explained it to them this way or that way. So I did that. So a few years passed by. A new education coordinator did take up after her. Like I said, I was a baby lab tech, only have like 3 years of experience. And they were like, you need more experience. And I was like, yeah, I do. So now that it's been 5 years and there's been more transition, this opened up. So now I'm here. And it's only my second month in. Every single day I'm learning
Wow.
a lot.
Look at that.
Um, yeah, I
A
had
little
no idea.
a veteran. No.
Not yet.
No.
Honestly, I was thinking that this would happen maybe within like 10, 12 years. I didn't think it would show up like at this point in my life, but
Right. Well,
I'm embracing it.
yeah, you did your part early on. Like when you were a student, you kind of reached out and were really interested. So
Yeah.
I think that's what really helped a lot.
And something really important that I need to mention is that I did get my master's degree. I started it probably a year after graduation.
Okay.
Highly recommend people to like look into like their continuing education,
Right.
especially if, at the time, I hadn't gotten married yet. And at the moment, I still don't have any kids or anything. So I have technically a lot more time than I would later on if I put this
Right.
off. I come from a family that is very encouraging of getting more education,
Yeah.
so I graduated with my bachelor's and they're like, all right, what's next? And I was like, wait, let me work.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of advice from different people, because there's so many master's programs out there.
Mhm.
Highly recommend people to look into them.
Right.
But I was like, should I get a master's in MLS because that's what I'm doing? The fact is that I got a bachelor's in MLS. And when I talked to different people, they said it's a little bit redundant in the material that you would get. The master's in MLS is really recommended for people that came from a biology background and now they're trying to enter lab world and they can grow from there. That's an excellent program for them. But for me, they said if you're interested in education, you're going to need to look at education stuff. So I found a program from University of Phoenix. At the time, they had a combo degree, healthcare administration / education. So I got management courses, I got recruitment courses, HR stuff, in addition to curriculum, uh, teaching the adult learner and stuff like that. I was really interested in just getting a straight master's in education, but they told me that one of the professors at Andrew said, well, you'll also learn how to teach kindergarten through 12 first before you end up like into the adult learning section. And so since I'm going to be interacting more with adult learners, I know that it'd be really great to use the skills of teaching K through 12. But this was just like the best program, when I was looking at it, I was like, this is precisely what I need to like learn about. So that I think that really helped accelerate my career growth is having that in my portfolio. It took me like about 2.5 years on and off.
It's not bad.
It was all online. So that was very helpful too. And I
Yeah.
took quite a few breaks in between. The way the program was designed, it was 6-week intensive, one class at a time. So just a lot of papers.
Right.
And then if I ever wanted a break, I would just say no class for the next 6 weeks and then I'd start to kick it up again.
Are there any schools out there that you would suggest or recommend to people who want to take this route?
I had a really good experience with the University of Phoenix. It was inexpensive compared to the other different schools that are out there.
Right.
And then I would look into your local schools as far as what programs they offer. Because if you're interested in being in person, it takes a lot of self-discipline to be able to go through an online course without any actual in-person interaction,
Right.
because all the deadlines are on you.
And you
But
don't
the
have,
flexibility is good.
do you have any mentor with you? Anyone who's like kind of
I mean, there's like an online teacher and you send them your assignments and then they give you assignments and then it's just like this little cycle. And it's a lot of discussion boards. Oh, gotta love those, you know. They're just like, hey, here's an article, what do you think? And then we all have to type up responses and then respond to each other.
right, right.
But
Okay.
you learn a lot. I think master's degrees are very much self-educational kind
Yes.
of thing. Not as much of like, here's a lecture, here's a quiz. In education world, it's more like, here's an article, what do you think? So if I were to look farther into like education, I'm still considering a doctorate in CLS and or an educational doctorate, but that would be like far out. I need to just like settle down for a bit.
I do know one really good school for
Mhm.
getting a PhD in CLS. Do you know which one that is?
University of Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where our own faculty is there, which is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Right.
So that's really nice to have like connections spread out.
Mhm.
I know someone here that went to Rutgers and in New Jersey, so that's more like an East Coast, closer to the East Coast.
Is that another school?
Um, mhm. And they're actually, I'm not sure how they're doing it, but they work here in Maryland and then they're going to school over there. And I think a lot of it is online,
Right.
but that's an up and coming program.
Okay. So your master's degree was in education. Is that what it was?
Uh-huh. It was healthcare administration slash education. So it was an MHA,
Nice.
but emphasis on the education. So that was like half of it. Yeah, it was really exciting. I really loved it. They're like, make a curriculum, make a course. I was like, yes, this is learning how to write objectives and stuff. Because, in MLS, it was very much the science of everything. We had a little bit of like management education courses, but this definitely helped give me the knowledge that I'm using every single day now.
If there's any CLS watching this who is aspiring to be in education and coordinating department position like you are, what type of advice would you give them?
Yeah, so definitely absorb your bench experience, embrace it, embrace all of it. Get your stories, get your technical information down, and try to see what different ways that you can teach it. There are people that are very good at auditory. You say something, they got it. Some people need to see like a picture. So if you can find a way to draw a little cartoon, if you find a good video to pass down or an article, when I'm training a new person, a lot of times I ask them, would you rather read the procedure first, then have me show you, or would you like to observe, then read to be more efficient? Some people read the procedure. For me, if I read the procedure without any observation before, it's in one ear, out the other. I'm like, what did I just read? And if
Yeah.
I observe it and then I read the procedure, I'm like, it makes so much sense. But there's some people that are the other way around where they would rather read and then the observation makes sense. Little things like that, check in, see the learning styles of the people. So that helps you know, get practice for when you're actually going to be an educator. Taking your stories, save them up because this is something I can pass down to a student. I saw a CSF that was like brown and it had like over 1 million cells. That's the kind of stuff that you would save up and they can be like, wow, that's interesting. In the educator world, it's not guaranteed that you will continue be working on the bench. Most places will probably have you be education plus bench, but for now, my bench is, I'm completely off the bench.
Right.
So whatever I
Yeah.
got is what I have. I do plan on coming back into the bench eventually, but this role is very involved right now. So absorb your bench, go to different conferences. The CLEC is really good, ASCP, you're always learning from them. And that's where you get networking. I met some people in 2017 that I still email every once in a while. And I
Mhm.
say, hey, how's it going?
So
And
how does your bench work look like? Instead of working on with the pipettes, with the microscope, with the flow cytometer,
I
scope of
email now much,
okay.
the equivalent of, hundreds of pipette tips is the emailing that I do now. I give hospital tours, I give new hire orientation, safety tours, lots of meetings, keeping in touch with, we have like about half a dozen schools that we work with and making sure that we're all in communication with what their expectations are, what we expect of their students. I get like safety training things, little inspection stuff. So it's a little bit of QA, but I'm not actually QA. I just work with in conjunction, very big picture. They told me that you can check out your local community college or something, or even high school to have a side hustle of being like a teacher's assistant or a lab assistant in biology or chemistry. And then you can also practice teaching. And that's also how you network because you can see like, okay, what kind of faculty positions are open. So that's another good education thing because not everything is inside the hospital. You can also network on campus. You will need some kind of like laboratory experience and most places require a medical laboratory science degree. or at least your ASCP when you do become faculty or something. They do need to be certified, and to get certified, you need to have bench experience. Have bench experience, you need to be trained in some way, shape, or form. One day I hope to be like a speaker or something, so that's like maybe the next couple ones I'll like put something together. But one day I'll have something. The other education coordinators, they speak often at these different places. For the AEBD.
Is that one of your goals?
That's one of my goals.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness, the education coordinators here are very qualified in the other departments. You know, they publish, they edit like textbooks and stuff. Like they are in education. So and they've been there for like 30 plus years. They have a lot of experience, and I look up to them. They're very helpful to me.
Yeah, those are your mentors.
Yes, exactly. My role models specifically for what I get to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, there's just so much out there. You can work as an education coordinator. You can work on the bench, or you can be a CLS traveler.
IT, field engineers, all those kinds of things. There's so much out there.
Right. So it just depends on your personality. If you love to teach, if you like to work by yourself, you know, at home, or if you want to work at the bench saving lives, because whichever route we take, it's a crucial role wherever you go.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And you'll be most successful in the area that you are very interested in. So I'm very excited about this, and the passion shows, and I go home very excited at the end of the day. I have lots of ideas all the time. I don't think I would have that much like energy or success if I was going the IT route or like field engineering.
Right.
I am not the most like tech savvy when it comes to like the instruments, but someone that like can know the ins and outs of stuff, you know. Highly recommend like finding like your deeper passion, not just a lab, but you're like, but I really love IT, or I really love the HR part of stuff, or all these different like areas, and explore them, and then shadow someone, find a contact, and network from there. That is going to be your key.
Well, Melody, it was a pleasure, and thank you so much for giving me your insights of how to become an education coordinator.
Yeah, thanks, Eliseo. I'm really excited for your YouTube channel.
All right, let's keep it growing. Let's keep it growing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melody. I'll see you next time.
All right, see you.
So there you have it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video valuable, share it with a friend who will benefit from it. Don't forget to like, subscribe to this channel to watch more videos just like this. See you guys next time. Take care.